Good morning, people. Welcome to the Shay Show. I've been gone for about 30 days. Needed to take a little break with the fam. Today, I am so excited to come off of my hiatus with Saira Rao. Saira, oh, there she is, you guys. I'm going to go get her. But she is a former congressional candidate. She's an entrepreneur, but more importantly, she's a woman of color who has decided to take honestly, the hard step in trying to unpack all of the different things that she's learned and think differently about her life. I want to talk to anybody who's boldly doing this stuff. Hey, Saira.
Hi, Shay.
Am I pronouncing it correctly?
You got my name right. It's Shay?
Yes, it's
okay.
Shay, like Shea Stadium or Shea Butter.
Got it. And mine's Saira, like Sarah with a thick Southern accent.
Right. I had a teacher. Actually, she was a professor when I was an undergrad. Her I sound was in a different place, but she was Persian. Her name was Madame Sarai. So that sound, Saira, was easy for me.
Yeah.
So, Saira, first of all, I just want to say welcome to the Shay Show and thank you for saying yes to me.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I want to just jump in. I always like to ask people where they are on this planet, just so that we all can kind of have context. So where are you, Saira?
Physically or mentally?
You know what? Let's do both places. Let's do the physical and then let's do the mentally.
Mentally, I'm in a state of panic as always.
Yeah.
But physically, I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Is that a turtleneck you have on, or is that a mask there?
It is a scarf.
A scarf. Oh, I like it.
Pure French. Is it
Hello. You're doing it. You're doing it, girl. So, Saira,
where are you, Shay?
I'm in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay. I'm from Richmond, Virginia. So
I saw that. So when are you going to be back here? Are you living in Denver or?
I'm living in Denver. I'm born and raised in Richmond.
Okay.
Have lived in Denver for about 8.5 years, moved here in a state of panic after my mom dropped dead.
I'm sorry.
And I moved from New York City. So I spent the majority of my adult life in New York City, but I'm kind of itching to get back to the Southeast. I'll be honest with you.
You know what? You just said something that I have to jump into, if you don't mind me asking. Yeah. So your mother dropped dead. Do you mind telling us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because it's now been, she died in June 4th of 2012. Her funeral was on my birthday. I mean, it was like massively traumatic. And she and my father still lives in Richmond, had come up to visit my family to watch my then babies while my husband and I went on vacation. And I left her and she was holding my son frying fish. And I get a call from my dad like 3 days later, and he was like, your mother is in the hospital, whatever. Husband and I hopped a red eye. When I got home, it was Mother's Day, and she was in the hospital, and the doctors were like, she's going to die any day now. We were like, what?
What did she drop? What was going on?
She had something called pulmonary fibrosis, which is the scarring of lung tissue. This, by the way, it's not being reported a lot because nothing is being reported a lot with COVID, but pulmonary fibrosis is a very common thing that's happening in COVID patients.
So people who've had COVID or who have it.
Suffocated to death, which is horrible. So she died just, 2 weeks after that. And it was so sudden. Thank you. But, here's the thing, Shay, like we don't know how to grieve in this country. So we deify birth and youth. But we don't care about children even, let alone the elderly and sickness and death. I just posted this on my Instagram. Look at the amount of COVID that's hitting schools and kids. And everyone's like, wait, why is no one paying attention? No one gave a crap when Sandy Hook happened. After, by the way, white babies, white, blonde hair, blue-eyed, wealthy babies. These were kindergartners and first graders who were massacred. And nothing happened, right? Like we knew what was happening. So with grief, nobody likes to talk about it because it's boring. And it makes you feel bad because death and sickness and aging is the ultimate affront essentially to capitalism.
Sure.
Right? And especially in brown and black communities, I don't know. It doesn't happen. And I'll tell you, I've given this a lot of thought. I'm first generation. So my parents came from India, and we had basically like our community were the aunties and uncles in Richmond. There were like 20 families at that time. But losing my mom was just not losing my mom. It was losing like everything.
Community.
An entire community. And so Anyway, I'm wrapping my brain around it now, and I think that a lot of us are experiencing grief. We should be experiencing grief with COVID.
Yeah,
We've
we
lost
should.
a humongous chunk of our neighbors and our friends and our colleagues, but we're, again, look at COVID. Like, we're pretending like it's not happening. Like, there's no space for grief.
No, it isn't. You know, I was thinking about this. A friend of mine and a person that I follow on Instagram named Tasha, she put out this thing. I've been really here and there on social media for the last month. I've just been kind of taking time to be with my family and honestly my own thoughts. But one of the things she said was, you know, here is what trauma, if you have a traumatic response to something,
right,
it's often because, and she lists these reasons, and
right.
One of the reasons is that someone made you feel like you were either needy when you were expressing the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
or someone made you feel like you were, I'm remembering the ones that resounded with me. You know, I was like, that resonates with me.
Yeah.
And that you were weak in showing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that has a lot to do with holding grief. I think we don't know what to do because I think our global or, corporate response to grief is you're weak, you're needy, keep it moving.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
No one wants to sit with you in it.
And you're a bad time.
Yes.
Like, nobody, you're total downer, you
Yeah.
know? And by the way, Shay, it's not different. You know, there are people on social media in real life who are sounding the alarm. And by the way, this is not reading the tea leaves. Like, we're headed towards we are in a disaster. We are in a disaster.
Disastrous.
I mean, Mother Earth is actively, as she should, kicking us out.
Jeez.
And if you actually point out what's happening, floods here in Colorado, that for the first time there were mudslides that shut down Interstate 70, which is the main highway east-west, mudslides, flooding. You know, look at New York City. I was actually supposed to be in New York City today for a race to dinner, which we'll talk about race to dinner after.
Yes, I can't wait.
We didn't go because of, you know, the trauma that the city has experienced. And if you talk about it, you know, if you talk about, my God, COVID pandemics, which, by the way, are part of climate catastrophe, racism, xenophobia, violence, Afghanistan, all of it, right?
All circular, all connected.
Kind of a bad time. Like, I don't want to hang out with Saira. She's a bad time. I mean, that's fine. Don't hang out with me, but don't make it because you don't want to actually talk about what is happening.
Or you don't want to acknowledge that you are somebody who doesn't want to talk about what is happening. That's truly it, because in the stories that we write of our lives, no matter what we do, no matter what awful we exact on another, who are we in the story? We're the hero and we're a good guy.
Right.
So if I'm with Saira and Saira keeps pointing out ways in which I can actually step up and change in order to be the hero, I really don't want to hear what you have to say, Saira, because what you have to say shines light on the fact that I'm not the good guy.
Totally. And, you know, people like, and
that's not fun.
Talk about white Americans because white Americans are the power majority, right? White Americans control everything. White Americans want to talk about their kids' crazy busy school schedules and their camps and blah, blah, blah. They don't want to talk about how kids are being massacred by COVID.
I know.
Like, it's really just, and we even use language like cognitive dissonance. That's a euphemism for denial.
Right.
You know, microaggressions, euphemism for fuckery, racism, xenophobia, microaggressions.
Brutality.
Yeah.
It's brutal. It really is.
Yeah.
You know what? I was sitting there yesterday just thinking how many questions I had for you. And I can't wait to get to Race to Dinner.
Go ahead.
On the way to Race to Dinner, this is what I want to ask you. You, as a brown woman who is a first generation immigrant family from India, you are in the scope of what white America calls the model minority. You're a part of that model minority. You are a part of the minority that could really lean into being white there and not having to subject yourself to the realities of of Black and brown people in America.
Right.
Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
100%. Yeah.
So I want to know.
Yeah.
I'm asking this hard question because I have a lot of Indian people in my life, or know quite a few, and most of the ones that are in my life, because you're not going to stay in my life if you are not aware. But I do know of many who, girl, you can't get any whiter. You can't get any whiter. So I want to know.
I know.
Why did it occur to you? What was the impetus to you? Because this is actually a journey that you could have pretended didn't even exist and that you didn't need to take. So I want to know why you did it.
And I did pretend that for a long time. So let's take a step back. So my parents came, post 65 Immigration Act.
Okay.
We are taught not, and by the way, they were born into British colonialism. So, they
So was my father. I'm from the Bahamas.
Okay. Why is the South Asian diaspora, why does it exist? It's because of British, and again, back to euphemism, colonialism is code for genocide.
Right.
What the British did was genocide.
Right.
And even Indians, by the way, I try to have these conversations with my elders. They can't. They literally can't. They can't. It's too much. They can't acknowledge it. It's been erased. I was in India a couple of years ago and talking to my cousin about what's the curricula? What are the kids? What are my nephews and nieces learning in school? They have one day on British colonialism in India, and they are taught about how the British gave them English. Like, they didn't need English. It's so so that's, talk about deeply colonized. So let's take a step back with history. The Immigration Act of 65, which enabled us to come, right, to escape the horrors of what was happening there, was on the backs of Black people from 1964 Civil Rights Act. So once we come here, though, we are taught to, quote, assimilate. Never talked about assimilate to white culture, but it was made clear Americans, assimilate to being American. And that was very clear it was white Americans.
It's true.
And we were taught from a young age, again, coded to keep a distance from Black Americans.
Absolutely. Right? I get it.
Also ourselves.
You see how those Negroes are treated?
Yes.
Try to, and no offense, but India, it's clear, even looking phenotypically at Indians and Africans, you can see where it was right up on it, like when it was Pangaea, it was a part of the same place. Totally. And there are a lot of Indians who make me look light skinned.
Yes. My friend here who's Black was her best friend growing up. Was Sri Lankan, and she was like, I wasn't allowed in her house, and she was like, girlfriend was much darker than me, and I'm like, it doesn't, like, that's not, it's all made up, right? It's all made up.
It's all fictitious. So I want to know how you got woke.
So I knew from a young age, and I'll tell you just a poignant thing. I was probably 10, and an Indian kid that I grew up with who was one of the most racially bullied kids out of all of us, and we all were racially bullied, right? And frankly, nobody knew what we were. There were, like I said, 20, 25 families. So Black kids made fun of us, Native kids made fun of us, everyone made fun of us. Because no one
what the hell are you?
Are you dot or feather? They would ask. And so this Indian kid
awful.
said,
Sorry.
Oh, but we've all gotten this, Shay,
Oh yeah, girl.
And so this
called nigger, and I didn't even know what it meant.
What's that?
Called nigger, and I didn't even know what it meant. I was like,
Totally.
What is that word?
Totally. In fact, I was called that a couple times, also because they didn't, these white people didn't know. So anyway, this Indian kid said to me, and we never talked about it, right? No one ever talked because it's silence. And he was 12, and he was practically in tears, and he goes, I just can't take it anymore. And then he paused and he goes, but at least we're not Black. That's what he said. And I knew, and I was like, yeah, like, thank God.
Thank you, Jesus. Yeah.
So, of course, you should have seen college. I was in a white sorority. I wore pearls. I wore Laura Ashley. I mean, it was a costume, right? Yes. And so I'm so embarrassed. And like the things that people said to me in college, all so racist, so xenophobic. And I pretended like it wasn't happening.
I did the same thing.
Yeah, of course. People would make fun of and I cringed to think about it. My mother, who had rheumatoid arthritis, who worked her ass off, she worked at the Veterans Administration. The things that these patients said to her, like, we're not going to let an N-word, or we're not going to let a terrorist give us a exam. And she'd be like, okay, the next time there's a white doctor, you'll be dead of butt cancer. Yeah. And she would have to actually give them rectal exams after they spoke to her like that. But my friends would come over and make fun of my parents' accents. They would make fun of the smells in our house. And I would laugh. I would laugh. So,
because you desperately, and I just want to say real quick in your defense, and that's why I'm so loving you saying all of what you're saying is because all of society, though, is teaching you and actually making you know, listen, if you want this to go all right for you, this is what you better do. You better step in line. You better be as white as you can. You better deny everything you think. Don't ever make white people feel uncomfortable. The way that you make them feel comfortable is you be most like them. And you better. So in your defense, as a child and as a young person trying to navigate this world, you were just trying to live.
Totally. So what does South Asian anti-Blackness look like? It looks like explicitly cross the street when you see a Black person, you know, like all the same stuff. But also what the model minority depends on is us hating ourselves.
I know.
And so that's the thing is like, so back to cape and aspiring to whiteness, right? You need to lose yourself. You can't paint your skin white, but you can do everything. You can wear the costume. You can change. You could code switch. I mean, the accent.
LL Bean, J. Crew.
I
got you. Right.
So how did I wake up? I think I've been in various stages of waking up. There have been glimpses of it, but it took, and this is what concerns me. And by the way, I'm having lots of conversations with South Asians. The only people who hate me more than white people are South Asian people, because they'll be like, stop. And I'm like, they know. And by the way, you know, they know because they call you terrorist all the time. Like they call you Apu. Like,
right. You know, but if you marry a white guy and y'all have some babies, it may look a little bit like you ain't even there.
It can go either way. And I have friends who have kids who are, some of the kids are darker skinned than me, but within the own family, and you know this too. It happens with Black and white, like, and then some of the kids are white.
Yeah.
And the kids, I have one friend. The dark skinned kids at school are bullied, and the white kids are not. So what does that create in the family?
That's right.
It's like
a hierarchical order of value and safety.
Totally within the family. So how did I wake up officially? It took the perfect storm, and that's really what concerns me about how hard it is to snap out of the programming. I mean, we've all been so deeply programmed. Is a couple days after the election of Donald Trump, I posted something about how this is the most depressed I've been since my mom died. A woman who was in the pulmonary fibrosis Facebook group I was in, I guess she was a Trumper, shared my post. The next thing you know, and I turned off Facebook and I went out to dinner with a crew of my white women friends from college who I moved to Denver from New York to be with after my mom died. That's why I'm here. These are like who I thought were my sisters, my family. And I went to the bathroom. And by the way, they're all making jokes, grab them by the pussy jokes. This is a big joke for them.
It's funny.
Like, it's funny because what a joke Donald Trump is. And I'm like, do you understand? Because we all knew that he's going to actually we all knew exactly what was going to happen, right? We all knew that he was voted in because of his racism, not in spite of.
That's right.
And what that means, right? And so I went to the bathroom and someone texted me and they're like, I'm so sorry about what they're saying about your mom. I'm like, my mom? And I go and look and they're calling her in this group, my dead mother, the N-word, terrorist, you know, blah, blah, blah. She can't even spell her own daughter's name because my name is Saira and not Sarah. Like it was wild. I mean, wild. So I come back.
Pause. Nope. No, ma'am. You're going to have to pause on this because this is insane to me.
Yeah.
What I'm not getting is that particular group of people, they love to act like they sit in the moral seat of authority. And so help me understand how you can feel that you are the moral high road when you are saying this awful ugly about someone's deceased mother. Help me.
They've hated us, Shay, from the start, right? You and me, they've hated us. And on the you know, the weeks after Donald Trump was elected, and now we're just seeing it in full, like, right. But it was like they've been waiting for Christmas for decades, and Christmas came, and they just couldn't, you know. So this is a woman who started this, who she and I had been in conversation because her husband died from pulmonary fibrosis at the same time my mom did, and the first opportunity she had to tell me what she thought of me and my dead mom, she did, right? Wow. So I come back, but the most important thing is what happened when I came back to the table to tell my friends. These are people who loved my mother, right? who loved my mother, who loved me. And had I come back, this is white feminism, had I come back to the table and said, my husband's such an asshole, because they love trashing their husbands, right?
Right.
The racist piece of shit husbands. They love trashing their husbands. But I come back and I sit down and I'm crying and I tell them what happened. So what happens next? And I'm telling you, this is why it was a perfect storm. One says to me, why do you have to be so serious? This is back to being a downer. Why do you have to be so serious all the time? The next one was like, tonight is, we'll call her Becky's birthday, not yours. And then Becky looks at Anne and goes, your skin looks great. What product are you using? And I didn't have the language then, but I do now, right? Just straight up gaslighting. Straight up gaslighting. So I'm stunned. I ordered the check. I call my Uber and I'm like, I had to get it. I felt like I was going to faint. You know, like the room started spinning.
I'm so sorry you had that experience by yourself.
I'm so happy I did. I'm so happy I did.
Yeah.
And so I get in the Uber and two of these women get in the Uber with me. And I'm like, okay, they're going to apologize. Well, Shay, you know how white women are. Of course, they're not going to apologize.
No, because they didn't do anything wrong.
Right. They're talking over me about their Pure Barre class that they're going to take tomorrow. And I'm like, oh my God. So what happens in the days.
Look at me. I can't even.
Exactly. And the days and weeks that follow, I'm waiting for apologies. I'm waiting for something. Nothing. So I'm so mad, Shay, that I just start like manically posting on Facebook. And that's all I knew what to do. It was so stupid, right? But like,
no.
Long story short,
you're feeling shit you didn't anticipate. You're feeling shit you've never really felt and sat with before. Right. You don't know a proper response. I don't know what the proper response is. Maybe it was that.
Right.
You know.
And so then what happened after that is the woman who has been in Congress here for a gazillion years, a white lady, toxic white lady, Democrat, made a statement, and ICE raids were happening in Denver all the time at this point. Made a statement to my brown friend at a town hall that civil rights are not one of her issues. Mm-hmm. At which point a bunch of other stuff happened with the Democratic Party. I ended up meeting Amy Klobuchar and Elizabeth Warren and Kirsten Gillibrand and all these people. And I'm like, holy shit, we're like putting our lives in these people's hands, and they don't even understand. They have no intersectional analysis they have no racial analysis.
No.
Intersectional.
No. So then as a whole, they don't, and they're not interested in it. Because again, your analysis is making them not look like the good guy. They're not interested in that story, Saira.
Totally. Oh my God. I have someone just said this is some good tea. By the way, that's Tasha. I wish I could spill all the tea with these. Maybe offline we'll talk about the conversations I had with some of these white senators.
Girl, I want it.
I wrote a piece called I'm a brown woman who's breaking up with the Democratic Party in December of 2017 for Huffington Post. And I shopped it around, and I work in media, so I know a bunch of people in media. Nobody picked it up except for a black woman editor at Huffington Post. Right?
Go ahead, girl.
So it went viral, and I got all these like, well, why don't you run for Congress? And I'm like, can't we expect more from our representatives without? But then I took a step back and I'm like, I have class privilege. I can do this. I have able-bodied privilege. You know, if I don't at least
someone just said that piece moved her.
Yeah, and thank you. And so I was one of the last people in America to file in 2018 to run in the midterm elections. Mm-hmm. And I did it. And it was wild. It was a completely anti-racism platform, 5 months. In February, it's basically all white. It's a majority white district. And these white women were lined up around the block every time I spoke to tell me about how they were not racist, not all white women, all that stuff.
I know. Isn't it exhausting? It's like, you don't have to prove that to me. Just live it. Just live that. You don't have to, girl, you don't even have to.
Right. One of my favorite, after this debate I had with Diana DeGette, that's the patron saint of white feminism, my congresswoman. This woman comes up to me and she goes, I'll grant you this. You are articulate. And I was like, oh my God.
Oh.
Like, it's like they're flipping through the Bible of toxic white womanhood. And she goes, but you need to wait your turn. And I was like, I'm 42 years old. Like, when's my turn?
It is so exhausting.
When is my turn? So then I go, let me give you a tip. I'm going to give you some free advice. Don't use that word articulate when you're talking to black and brown people. It's racist. And she goes, I can use whatever word I want with you. My daughter's Indian. And I was like, well, then I feel so sorry for your daughter. So her daughter, by the way, a couple months later calls me She's like 22. She doesn't even know her mom has been at this thing, calls me and she's like, I want to volunteer in your campaign. We start talking and she's telling me about how traumatized she is by having been adopted into this super racist family that think that they're really liberal because they're Democrats. I mean, you can't pick it up.
Or that they have a child of color. You know how many white people here in the South have adopted Black babies, and girl, you can't, and are total Trumpers, and you can't tell them that they need to change. And what makes them feel really holy and thou is taking a photo of Lil Blackie, hey, and posting it somewhere. And I'm like, listen, the things that you feel, the things that you espouse are going to traumatize, in fact, are traumatizing that kid. And they may not have the power to say it at 8. Yeah. They may not have the clarity of thought to tell it to you and to beg something different. But you best believe when they get old enough, this is the shit they will be sitting with therapists on, getting all of it unworked.
Yeah.
For the rest of their lives.
Yeah. And in fact, we had a race to dinner with a majority table of white women who had adopted Black and brown kids. And my God, I mean, because they have a couple glasses of wine and
they the start,
they start talking, and the shit that they say, they know. It's not that they don't know. They know. And that's why our book, Regina, my partner at Race to Dinner and I's book, is called White Women, Everything You Already Know About Your Own Racism and How to Do Better. So feigned ignorance is critical to this nonsense, right?
It is. Yes. Yeah. Willful blindness is what we learn in law school, right? Willful blindness.
Yes. Listening and learning is also, back to euphemisms, listening and learning is code for go fuck yourself.
Right.
You know, that's listening and learning for white people. Like, that's what they want to say to us, but instead they're listening and learning.
I'm listening. I'm learning. I'm leaning in.
Yeah.
All of that.
Teach me. Mm-hmm. I mean, like, when white people say teach me about racism, it's like, wait a second. It's like, they wrote the book. They wrote the book. They've benefited.
I didn't create this.
Sales. Yeah.
I didn't create it.
So it's like William Shakespeare asking the reader, explain to me what Romeo and Juliet, you know.
Tell me about Hamlet again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What about that shrew?
Yeah.
Why did it have to be tamed? Uh-huh. Yeah. I 100% get it. So the perfect storm is the death of your mom, all of these feelings that you have, groups of people that you feel loved by, and their response coming at you in this space of brokenness. That's when it became clear to you that there was no amount of whiteness that you could, pardon?
That's exactly right. The way you just framed that was beautiful. Yeah.
There was no amount of whiteness that you could embody that was going to make this good for you.
You know, it's funny. This is back to it being a gift. What's been interesting is back to the model minority. So your original question is the model minority only works. And this only works if you shut up. If you're silent. So you put on your J. Crew and your LL Bean and you shut up. So
that's right.
Both. So then look at me. I'm dressed like a white woman still, unfortunately.
Girl, I still have a lot of it. I mean, I know I do bring on, but I know it too, because I went to white boarding schools from the age of 9.
Did you?
Yes. So I mean, that's why I sound the way I do. And I don't sound like a Bahamian, is because I went to white American boarding schools. And I know that there are parts of me that I have absolutely like taking on and are formed up in me. And so I'm not going to pretend like it's not. But what I'm not doing any longer is leaning into it like it's going to make me better and that you're going to see me as better, because I'm still showing up. I just saw Bozeman St. John. She said this about a month or so ago when I was on Instagram just looking, and she said, you know what it dawned on her? That no matter what, at the end of the day, do you know who Bozeman St. John is? You know how she's like, weave on top of weave, and then the weave is on top of that weave, and the nails come out to here. Like, she is like that Black woman, all of it, right? And she knows she's a lot, but beautiful and more than enough. But she was like, I think what she was answering is like, how do you show up looking all of that with and you're Black? And she is blackety black, like she is dark. You ain't gonna pretend. Nobody's asking you if your mom is white.
Right.
You are Black.
Right.
And she said what occurred to her in her pursuit of living was that no matter how she showed up, these white folks was going to still see her as just that black girl. So if this is how she likes to show up, then bring it. I don't have to put on the J. Crew, because even when I wear the J. Crew, you don't see me as you. You just 100%. See me as something that you can tolerate. So
100%.
So I understand. I still have the whitey parts of me too. Docksiders. I know all of this shit is bad. But what I don't think any longer is that this shit is going to fool you or fool me.
Right.
I just happen to like it.
Right.
You know,
right.
But I'm aware why I probably like it. Right. Probably some brainwashing took place.
Right.
You know?
Well, but so back to Indian people and Asian people, we have to dismantle our own self-loathing. We have to extract the institutional anti-Blackness, the institutional Islamophobia, and we have to join forces. I mean, look at the numbers of the census. And this guy, John Blake, I don't know if you follow him on CNN, he's Black.
Yeah.
He wrote a piece about the browning of America is whiter than you think, because whiteness always wins, right?
It
whiteness
does.
Shapeshifts. So if we don't come together, and that's what that the model minority, what a brilliant move, what a brilliant marketing scheme.
Yeah,
sell yourself down the river, and what you get in return is that you're not Black. That's what you get in return. That's your return on investment.
And there's so many things it acknowledges. The fact that you want to be the model minority lets you know that there's some shit that happens to the minority that's not model that you don't want.
Yes.
Right? So you can't deny that. You can't be like, oh, there is no such thing as white supremacy, because then why don't you lean into it?
Yeah.
You're not leaning into it because you understand that there is poor treatment that can be had.
Right.
And this is the worst part. I think you said it. The worst part about white supremacy is the self-loathing that it requires. The model minorityness, it requires you to hate yourself. It requires 100%. You to hate all those things. So what I automatically thought is those friends that you thought were your sisters, those friends that you thought were your inner circle, the reason why they fell away, I mean, you haven't said that yet, but my assumption is they can't sit in the space, is because the you that befriended them was dead. The you that could sit at a table talking about Barre and about my shitty husband when I have someone who's sitting here having an emotionally traumatic moment and I can't be present for them. So the you that was a friend to them didn't require anything more. You grew into a place where you required more of them and required more of you. Right. And the you that was showing up in that space couldn't be a friend in that situation. Totally. Do you see what I'm saying?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. And can we also just be honest here? I mean, you went to boarding school with these women.
I know.
They're boring.
So very.
So boring.
Very. So very.
Like zero personality. If your personality is Soul Cycle and your shitty husbands, like, no thanks. It's boring. It's not just toxic, but it's boring.
Yeah. I just want to say this even again, because I was like, oh, I think this is a better way to say it, is that these women were friends with your representative. You know how Chris...
Totally.
So when the real Saira showed up, you're like, who the F is this chick?
Totally. One of them told me, I couldn't believe, and I appreciated it because it was so honest.
Yeah.
Like 6 months in, it was right around my birthday in June of 2017. She goes, like, let's be honest here. You baited and switched us. This is not who we bought. And I was like, you're right. And
you're right.
Why people have baited and switched all of us on a macro scale. I just baited and switched you on a micro scale,
But I will say, you didn't really have a whole bunch of intention behind it. You thought that the thing that you were espousing and living, you thought you would be able to live that size for the rest of your existence. You truly did.
Totally. But by the way, Shay, this is why when white people say personal relationships are going to save us, that's not true. Like when if you know more people of color, it's going to be all good. White parents love their black and brown kids. You have to assume they love their black and brown kids.
That's right.
And they are still racist AF towards their black and brown kids. I mean,
sure.
If that thesis worked, then there would be no more misogyny, because ostensibly men love their daughters.
Or I use that same argument, but I take it, I go up in hierarchy, and I don't go down to the progeny. I think if that were true, then there wouldn't be men who are sexist and hate women, because every man has a mama and came out of somebody's vagina. Every single one.
Totally. Everyone.
But yet,
everyone.
Every one of them. Not like some. Every single man who does not give a crap about a right for a woman came from the vagina of a woman.
Yes.
So clearly, proximity does not clarify stuff for us. Proximity doesn't change us. It has to be something more than just proximity. I think it's how you show up in proximity. What are you showing up as in that close space?
Right.
Because I know people who have black children that they have adopted and were at the Capitol riot.
Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God.
With nooses.
Yeah.
With nooses. And I thought to myself, I wonder where they go in their souls. Like, would you bring your black baby there? Would you know that? And I would bet you their answer would be a whole bunch of stuttering, but they would know deep in their heart that that would not be a safe place for their black baby to be brought.
Right.
So should their mom be there? Should their dad be there?
Yeah, which means that their home is not a safe space.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, totally.
So,
totally. Someone did just make a statement about white women not just being boring, but also being really horrible to each other.
Also violent, competitive, and cruel towards each other. Go ahead.
At every race to dinner, Regina and I will say, who do you all dislike more than you dislike the two? Because they really don't like us during these 2 hours that we have the dinner with them. And at least one of them will have some semblance of self-awareness and will say each other. Because white women have been taught to perfectionism, right? Which doesn't exist. And so you, Shay, and I can't even aspire to it, because there's a foundational adjective, white, to be perfect.
But didn't mean I didn't try.
Yes. So back to the legal terms, it's necessary but not sufficient to be perfect, right? And so they're all clawing each other's eyes out for who has lost more weight. I mean, they're all hungry too, right? They haven't eaten in like decades. Who looks the best? Who, like, you know, their kids, what colleges they're going, all of that stuff. And so in order to be the most perfect, you have to be in competition with each other. And they are so nasty to each other. And that's the other thing, like both you and I have been flies on these walls for decades, right? It's wild.
It is.
Horrible. Horrible. And the minute you leave the room, you know they're talking shit about you, and they know that about each other. How can you have sisterhood? How can you have sisterhood?
I don't know. And they really do. What I find most interesting about a lot of white women in those spaces too, is any question to them, any kind of thing that you posit to them that begs something of them in terms of clarity and greater understanding, they take it as a personal affront and will be in tears on the receiving end of your question, your very calm question, and acting like you have attacked them. It's very, like, I have truly been in situations where I'm like,
what?
I just don't know what's happening. I see that you, and I'm so emotionally in tune that I'm like, I'm seeing that you're crying, and I certainly don't want that to happen, but I truly have no clue where this pain is coming from.
I know.
Have you ever been in that situation?
All the time. At every dinner, somebody cries or gets angry, and when that happens, they have to leave the room. Like, they always, and by the way,
I'm sorry.
Like one of the dinners, one of our early ones, a white yoga instructor in Boulder. By the way, white yoga is another, like, that's another whole situation altogether. Where were all the white yoga instructors when Indians were choking and suffocating to death in April? That's where I want to know. They were selling their Kundalini classes. Yeah.
Namaste. That's where we were, right? Yeah.
But this white yoga, and I said, white yoga in this country is almost always cultural appropriation. This white lady sitting next to her, who doesn't even know her, reaches over and tries to grab me by the shirt and tells me, you need to apologize to her right now. And I was like, what? And thankfully this white lady, the yoga instructor, was like, no, please don't. She's right. Like, Saira is right. This woman cries starts crying. And I'm like, why are you crying?
And you just beat her. And she's crying like you just physically flogged her. And you're like, where's this coming from?
Totally. Like, yeah, I asked her for a kidney and I then physically removed it. Yeah. Yeah, it's like that.
You know, which also you spark something else in me. And I want to know if you've had this experience. And then for real, I want us to talk about race to dinner.
Yeah.
I have found white women to be so apt to correct me and to question me, but not think that I should question them. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like the fact that that lady, reached over, grabbed you and told you and demanded, everything in her absolutely felt that she had that right to do. And I have never felt like I had the right to speak to white women and many times the way that they have spoken to me or questioned me or pulled me out on the rug. And I also, before I got to where I'm at, a part of my thought process was like, what am I emitting out into the world that makes me always the one who is standing in line to answer and to answer you? Because what I don't ever feel like is that you are there waiting to give answers to my questions. Do you understand what I'm saying?
What you're admitting is that you're a Black woman.
Yeah.
And they expect you, that's your place, right? Like your place is to just always, and back to your first point, Shay, which is 100% right. White women are the experts on everything.
Every flipping thing.
Everything. They know everything, you know? Even though they're crazy busy, they still manage to amass all of the knowledge on the planet, and they know everything better. Better than
what am I gonna do with you, Saira?
It's true. I mean, that's it. So they know more about racism. Everything. They know more about xenophobia. We had you know what, we'll talk about race at dinner, but that's it. You know, like they're experts on everything. And so if you say to them, you don't get to decide what's racist, you know, they will lose their goddamn mind.
That's
because
right.
They get to decide everything, right? Everything belongs to them. So when you push back, then you're back to the kidney. When you push back even a little bit, you've actually asked them or stolen one of their organs, you know, and sold it on the market somewhere. So yeah. There's something else. White women are honestly something else.
You know, I say that to my husband. I have a few white friends, and actually, I'm in the process of getting more Black friends. Honestly, I was so kind of sheltered socially, and probably some by my own enactment, but not even realizing it. You know what I mean? So I just had this conversation with a group of white friends the other night. I was like, I am not trying to get any more white girlfriends. I'm not. I think, look, God bless you. God bless you. But what I am not interested in is having any more relationships where I have to keep showing up as my half self, as a quarter of myself, and act like the things that you say and promote aren't jarring and immensely hurtful to me, because they are. You know, like those conversations we've all been in where you're like, where they say, you know, I remember being in boarding school and having this like, man, Denzel Washington, he is really handsome for a Black man. No offense, Shay. Well, I am offended. And then me wanting to care more about what I make the racist feel, having said the racist comment, that I laugh it off or look elsewhere and remain silent.
Totally. Let me ask you this, Shay. The white girlfriends that you still have in your life, like, how's that worked out? Like, how have they maintained their relationship with you and your trust, I guess?
Yeah. I think a friend said it best one time. They were the type of white women who moved with me as I grew, and they didn't. So all of the relationships that I lost were relationships where I'm moving. I am moving and I'm growing. I'm not doing this any longer. And these people did not want to move with me, nor did they want to even acknowledge that there was a need to move. So the white relationships that I have are people who are consciously married to moving with me and checking themselves and that I can be friends with, because I'm not perfect in my expression of Blackness either. You know, I'm not perfect in my expression of humanness. But what I can't be with is someone who is going to deny that A, there is a difference, and B, that there are hurts and things that I am encountering and have encountered that they don't know shit about, and they're not going to sit as the authority. They're going to truly want to move with me, grow with me, and learn alongside of me, and not have me teach them everything. Those are the white relationships that I have. Right. So to be honest, they're extraordinary white people, white women.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I have a couple of those, but they're few and far in between.
It's true. Yeah. It's true. But if they, I just know that, and also fundamentally, the white women that I am still friends with, I know they deeply and profoundly love me, and love all of me. And there's no requirement in their love that I take down anything, I notch it down at all. Yeah. That's great. So I want to get into Race to Dinner. What is Race to Dinner and how did it come about?
Sure. Race to Dinner, my partner Regina Jackson and I do the dinners. Regina's a Black woman here in Denver, and she had volunteered on my campaign. That's how we met. So we're actually modeling brown and Black solidarity, you know?
Love it. To be honest, I love that. That's what made me reach out to you, because I haven't seen a lot of, I know technically you're Asian, but I'm going to call it, can I just refer to Indian? I haven't seen a lot of Indian people in the terrain saying anything.
We're busy hating ourselves and trying to be white and being anti-Black. I mean, that's what we're doing, right? So Regina, also there's intergenerational. So she's 70, I'm 40. I'm in my 40s. I'm 47.
Wait a minute, so am I. But she's in her 70s.
She looks amazing, right?
Yes, I mean, I'm y'all go to Saira's page, because Regina looks like she's 45.
I know, she's so young. Look, okay, she's amazing. So what happened is, you know, she would be at all these things when I was running for Congress, where these white ladies were like, let's have lunch, let's have dinner. And I was running for office, so I had to do it. And all these lunches and dinners resulted in not me, right? So months later, she had a friend.
Let me tell you how good I am, and I'm not like the rest of those.
Amazing. Her friend, we'll call her Karen. I made the critical mistake of calling Beto O'Rourke a white savior. That was the straw that broke Karen's back, and she went crazy. She went crazy and calls Regina, and she's like, I'm done with Saira. She hates white people. But will you set up a lunch for us? So Regina calls me, and I'm like, I'm not doing that again. But I was like, you know, I do have a cachet of white ladies who are waiting to have lunch and dinner. So if you come with me, let's get them all together. So we did, and it went side. I mean, it was this Karen, her friend, full white woman Broadway musical, tears, anger, narrative arc,
jazz hands, all of it. Narrative arc.
A moonwalk situation that she did. I mean, it was one for the books.
Not the narrative art, though. Keep going.
Regina was like, holy shit. So we forgot about it, and I run into this Karen lady on the street in February, 2 months after we had this. So this is February 2019, and it's so cliche. She's literally on her phone listening to So You Want to Talk About Race, and she goes, "Oh my God, Saira, I get it now. I want to have a dinner." So then we're like, okay, so she has a dinner, and this is the dinner where the woman reached over and tried to grab my shirt. She has a dinner. It was also one for the books. Not only did that woman try to beat me up, another woman is sitting next to Regina telling her how hard it was for her growing up in a white family that were civil rights activists. And does she even know what it feels like to be called an N-word lover? But she's dropping the N-word, saying this to a Black woman who's lived through Jim Crow.
Yeah, I promise you, saying it to a 70-year-old Black woman.
Yeah. So it was, again, so I went home. My husband had been traveling, so I had to pay for a babysitter, right? So we were not charging any, I get home and I'm like, you know what? like shame on them the first 1 million, 2 billion times, but shame on me. Like I'm out $75.
Right.
I've like been physically and mentally assaulted. Like, why am I doing, like, why would I do this? Right.
Insane. Right.
So the next morning I just went on Facebook and I wrote about it, and it went fully crazy. Like hundreds of women were like, I want to do a dinner. I want to do a dinner. And Regina calls me and she was like, well, if we're doing this anyway, why don't we just call it Race to Dinner and charge these women? And I was like, okay, like we're giving out our free labor anyway. So that's when it started. And it just really, I mean, we did dinners for a year, 2019 to 2020. And then The Guardian did an article on us, February 2020. And it just went like, it's kind of gone bananas since then. So we do Zooms with people around the world. We did one with the Canadian government over COVID. And by the way, it's all, white women are the same everywhere. These women were like crying in French, you know, it's like they're like doing the same shit.
God, I can't go. Sarah. Oh, Saira. Okay, girl. Oh my God, there's so many things you're saying. So who are the people who signs up for Race to Dinner, and what would you say is the goal of Race to Dinner? So I see the nexus out of which, you know, I see its origins. It comes out of, honestly, you know, white women wanting to get together to say, not me, essentially. And you and Regina are real speakers to this. And so who are the people who sign up, and what is your goal with Race to Dinner?
So the goal is to actually have people, nothing changes without radical honesty, right? Like it doesn't help me and it doesn't help Asians to pretend like we're not anti-Black.
Right.
It helps us if we, back to wanting to feel like the good person. By the way, we all come by this, honestly. We all been engineered. So it doesn't make you bad.
No.
Right? It does make you bad if you refuse to acknowledge it, because if you refuse to acknowledge it, then you can't change your behavior.
Yeah. And that's what I was trying to say, but I like how you said it. We come by it honestly. Yes. Yeah. Because we are all eating or drinking the same poison. Why would I not hate my Blackness when you are teaching to hate Blackness? Just because I'm the Black drinker doesn't mean I'm going to hate myself any less. Hate Blackness any less than Jeb over there. I'm going to hate it the same way.
Totally. So you know, that's it. So you can start having radically honest conversations, and we do it over dinner because people can be candid over dinner. Breaking bread instills conversation, it sets the mood, I would say. And also, white women love nothing next to their exercise classes. They love nothing more than dinner parties.
They do love them.
And their dinner parties are always filled with nonsense. I mean, small talk. It's tiny talk. It's not even small. Small is too generous. Tiny talk. And so what if they actually have dinner at a dinner table at their house? And they're talking radically about how they've been racist and the racist things that they've done and said. So the next time they have a dinner party at their house, or the next time they go to a dinner party, suddenly it's not so foreign for them to have these types of conversations.
That's right.
And so the people who come, it's kind of a mixed bag. So it's some who want to tell us their civil rights resumes, which bizarrely often include voting for Hillary Clinton. You know, some of that, and giving money to Planned Parenthood.
Right.
Then it's also women who actually, like, I'll tell you one poignant one. We had one in Chicago in January of last year. And this woman said, she's a nurse, and she said earlier, so it was January, so it was a holiday party. So this is, you know, a month earlier, this illuminates the ecosystem. The doctor who's the head of the group is a white man, and 9 nurses, all white women. So the head honcho is a white man, and his you know, minions are white women. And he makes a statement about how their goal for next year is to not hire so many foreign doctors. And she was like, oh my God, because she said that they'd hired like a half a dozen African-American and Asian-American and Latino-American doctors.
I'm trying to hear the foreign part.
Yeah, it was not Norwegian doctors, you know? So she said immediately she knew what he meant. And I said, so what did you do? And she said, I said nothing. I said, what did everyone else do? Nothing. I said, so when there's one Nazi at the table, right? And there are 9 people sitting quietly, there are 10 Nazis at the table.
That's right.
And she said, I have been sitting with this for a month. She was like, I couldn't even enjoy Christmas in the holidays. And she said, I feel like the weight of the world is off my shoulders. White supremacy hurts everybody and kills everybody, including white people.
It does.
And so look at COVID. I mean, COVID's a really sort of obvious example, but and by the way, she's gone on. I mean, like, she and I keep in touch, and she's been doing the work. And she just said she feels like a new person. She feels like the poison and the toxin is starting to leave her body. And so we have a lot of people like that who are just tired. You know, when people say, I'm tired of being tired, I'm tired of sitting on this shit. I'm tired of being an active player in this. And so I'd say a good chunk of those white women who show up are those people. Do they get upset during the dinner? 100%. Do they get angry? 100%. Do a percentage of them walk away and start their journey of actually taking the stuff out of themselves? Yes. And that's why we do it.
And that's why we do it. I mean, there's so many things you're saying. I'm like, man, that must be a powerful space to be in. And, you know, it's interesting when white people have that awakening. I wrote a piece. It was interesting. I wrote a piece about how white supremacy, it's not just bad for Black people. Honestly, I started having this reckoning and this analysis that kind of just grabbed a hold of me, and I couldn't let it go. And I was not analyzing racism from the effects that it has on me. I was analyzing racism. I just couldn't stop myself from what it required of white people, what it took from them. And I wrote a piece on that. And the whole essence of the piece is white supremacy requires you to be something less than who you are, white person. It requires you to be, and the example I used is a photo here we have in Charlotte, this Museum of the New South. And it may not even be up now, but at some point between 2003 or 4, when we moved here now, I have gone to this museum and there was this image. And on the wall, it's this image of a group of people, and they just look like they're dressed in their Sunday best, and they're eating stuff. And I zero in on this little cute girl with ringlets and just looks like, I don't know, I'm a good ship lollipop kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you get closer to the photo and you realize everybody's looking up. And then you look up to where the people in the photo are looking up, and there are 3 Black men hanging from the tree. And you realize that this is a photo that was taken of a huge town social outing, seeing 3 Black men hung and murdered. And what I immediately thought was, whoever that little girl was before, she's gonna be somebody different. And what does it cost her? Are you willing to have that humanity? You know what it costs? It costs humanity. That's what it costs.
Yeah.
And so when I'm seeing that, I keep thinking of who you have to be all right with that, who you have to be to want to teach your child that. So white supremacy, I know this is a very radical example, but my point is it detracts from everybody. And I might say it detracts the most from the people who have to like yield that awful, ugly on other people.
Well, we've white supremacy, capitalism, you know, the 1-2 punch has created a society where we are okay with children being slaughtered by guns in schools. Again, back to white children.
Yeah,
you know,
even white children. We're like,
yeah,
you're children. Like, even them. We don't have a problem with it.
And COVID.
Yeah.
So like, let's be clear. Nobody is winning here. Nobody is winning. And it's the ruse and it's the con of capitalism that if money is not going to save you during a drought or a flood. It's like, at some point, like, even the rich people died on the Titanic.
Right.
You know, everybody dies. And so if you can spare yourself a couple extra years, and that's why these lunatics are taking fake trips to, you know, trying to colonize space and Mars and whatever. And these, you know, tech billionaires are building underground glamping situations under their house in preparation for the apocalypse, which, by the way, they've financed. you know, this is not helping anybody here.
Oh my God. Okay. I want to know, how do I...
Shay, you know what? I'm looking at the time. I got to hop in a minute. But so...
Okay, I need to know, how do I sign up with Race to Dinner? How do I do it?
If you're... So by the way, we have a couple things going on now. So white women can sign up for Race to Dinner. Race2dinner.com. We have one newish program. It's called Race to Community. It's on the Race to Dinner website. Mm-hmm. And it's an anti-whiteness 8-week program that the resident white woman on our team, Lisa Bond, she leads that. It's amazing. And then Regina is leading a new program called Race to Self-Actualization for BIPOC women.
Okay.
And that's a 5-week program to help BIPOC women actually, you know, focus on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, you know, please go to our website, follow us on socials. We have our book coming out next year with Penguin. We also probably the most exciting thing for me is we just signed a deal with Knopf, which is with Penguin Random House as well, to do a middle grade book series for kids called Race to the Truth. Ooh. And we're looking, the first 2 books are under contract. One is about the truth about the first contact with the white colonizers and indigenous folks, which happened at Martha's Vineyard with the Wampanoag tribe. We have a woman who's a member of the Wampanoag tribe in Martha's Vineyard writing that. The second book is about early chattel slavery. One of my dear friends, Dr. Patricia Williams-Lassane, Black woman in Baltimore, is writing that book. And we just contracted for the truth about the Mexican-American experience and the truth about the Chinese-American experience. And we're looking for an author right now. If anyone on here is listening or has a friend who's a author or a historian, a Mexican-American author or historian, to write the book about the truth about the Mexican-American experience. And this is one tiny step towards teaching children about the truth. And so those books launch next fall. Yes. So we got a lot of stuff going on. So come find me, come find us. And we got to do this again, Shay.
Yes, we have to. Actually, a lot of people said that, and I definitely want us to do this on a regular basis. And you fit me into your schedule. I love it. You said something, though, that I want to make sure. So it doesn't matter where you are in the country or the world. Can you sign up for Race to Dinner?
Yeah.
Okay.
We do
Great.
Zoom. We do, like I said, unless climate catastrophe gets in the way.
Right.
We actually we'll fly anywhere and do dinners, but also we'll do Zooms, and also Race to Community and Race to Self-Actualization are all digital.
Okay. I love it. Saira, I adore you, girl. We're doing this again. Thank you for what you're doing in this world. It makes a difference.
Thank you. All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.